guys, welcome back to my channel. Whee! I actually did that. Damn, that hurt. If you're watching this right now, during this date, you'll probably know that most of us are still on quarantine, on lockdown, and also Disney Plus came out in the UK. So guess what? What does a mature 28-year-old do when she finishes her 9-to-5 job? I'm binge watching Disney series, and I'm binge watching the classics. So I decided to do a series of vlogs because there are many videos out there that are talking about the mental disorders of what Disney princesses have. But what I want to pinpoint here, what I want to focus on my channel, is behavioral patterns. Things that we do subconsciously because our beautiful mind is so complex and we don't even realize it. So Ariel's a hoarder, we know that. Is Ariel in love with the prince, Eric? Or is she in love with the idea of love and actually the idea of being a human? So think about it, you have this mermaid, right, and she's collecting all this crap from like the human world and she's all like, oh, I'm all by myself and I have no one that loves me and I don't fit in. Classic. And she's fascinated by the human world, this other world. Oh no, wait, no, that's Latin. And suddenly she meets Eric, or she doesn't even meet him, she sees him on a ship dancing with a bunch of dudes and a dog, which is just weird. And she falls in love with him right away. But is she in love with the prince, or is she in love with the fact that he is human and that he basically is a humanized version of her infatuation? If you watch Little Mermaid, you know what the diggle hopper is, you know, and she's like, oh, how nice, how pretty, just do my hair. So obviously you can't fall in love with a fork, it's weird. I mean, who am I to stand between true love? Spoon may be better, you know, spooning. Okay, if you actually stay on my channel, and by the way, if you like what I'm saying, which you have no idea what I'm about to say because I'm rambling, but push that subscribe button, push it, you'll realize that I love play on words, and the cornier the play on word is, the more I want to share it with you. So here are a few signs that the Little Mermaid awakened for me that show whether you are in love with the person or the idea. Harsh truth time. The more you stick to the fairy tale, the more you stick to finding the prince, the farther away from reality it is, and the more pressure you're going to put on your partner, and will probably end in really badly, and you'll just be disappointed and heartbroken, and you'll be like, okay, what's the whole point of life? So, focus on me. So one sign that you are in love with the idea rather than the person is that you believe that your life will start once the fairy tale begins. So for some people that fairy tale may mean moving in together, may mean marriage, may mean kids, their wedding day. I don't know. Everyone has, like, let's say a pinnacle moment where they think, okay, this is where it starts, this is where it all begins. Well, if you think like that, you're missing the present, and it's more likely that you're in love with the idea of that fairy tale rather than the person, because then you're kind of living in limbo and you're not really living in the present. So you're kind of like a bear that's hibernating. So do you know what hibernation looks like? Do you know how a bear comes out? So he hasn't eaten or drunk something for I don't even know how many months, and he has a fecal plug. What is a fecal plug? This is the part where you're like, Olympia, I really didn't need to know this, but this is like really crucial to my point. So if you're waiting for that fairy tale, if you're waiting for that beginning, you're basically hibernating yourself through life, and you're gonna come out with a fecal plug. And a fecal plug is a large mass of dried up feces. Basically, the bear is full of shit. The more you postpone living the present, the more full of shit you will become. So basically, live your life now and stop creating that fecal plug. Another sign is that you can't see their flaws because they have to fit in this fairy tale romance, right? And a prince can't have a flaw. So you overlook this and you diminish whatever flaw they would have. I've done that in previous relationships. I fell in love with the idea of love and things that would, let's say, things that would annoy me. For example, a person being shellfish. Did you see what I did right there? Shellfish, Ariel, selfish. So if the person was selfish, I would find an excuse and be like, no, it's fine. But in reality, that was a very serious flaw because that flaw extended to our relationship and to decisions and how it turned out. And neglecting the flaws, I mean, if you take Ariel, she sacrifices everything to be with this guy and this guy almost kisses her, and then suddenly this chick shows up, she's singing the same song he's like obsessed with because he thinks that song is connected to the girl he loves, and he pretty much ditches Ariel, and it's only when she gets her voice back, congrats Disney on the symbolism, it's only when she gets her voice back that suddenly he realized that this is the woman that he's in love with. That is stage one, overseeing their flaws. That is one sign that you are more in love with the idea of love rather than the person. The second sign is that suddenly that flaw becomes very apparent to you and you cannot for the life of you move forward. Why? Because they are not fitting in that beautiful little box you've created called your fairy tale, or let's say Olympia's fairy tale. So no matter how much you're trying, you just can't get over this flaw. And instead of talking about it, you either try and swallow it up so you don't ruin that fairy tale, and which then will ruin the relationship, or you just start fixing it. And then third sign is that you try to change your partner, because your partner suddenly is reacting or expressing themselves in a way that does not fit your little box. This is very unfair to the person, but it's also very unfair to you, because you're kind of ruining your relationship and sabotaging yourself, because if the person gets angry or does something that is out of his character, which in reality it is his character, you're just refusing to see it, you get all upset, you get disappointed, and you're thinking that this relationship doesn't have a future. And then it ends. So the fourth sign is that if you can't change your partner, then you are going to start sacrificing parts of yourself or change yourself in order to fit that fairy tale. Because you're like, okay, he's stubborn, he can't be a prince, but I have to be the damn princess. So then you're like, okay, in order for me to be the damn princess, I have to do this, this, and this. So you start sacrificing parts of yourself, and there's a difference between sacrifice and compromise. And check out my video over here where I talk about how basically if you give them everything, they won't love you anymore, and how sacrifice and compromise play a role in a relationship, but this video is not about that. So going back to Ariel, let's say, Eric was human, right? And she was bound determined that she has to become a human, that she has to marry him, even though she only saw him once. Anyways, that's Disney's fault. But in order for her to be with Eric, in order for her to, not even be with Eric, in order for him to gain attention, she sacrificed the one thing that was uniquely hers, the one thing that everyone was so proud of, jealous of, whatever, her voice. So, actually Disney, congratulations, like that is a perfect metaphor, because she literally sacrificed her voice, her opinions, who she is, what she was, a mermaid. What she had, her unique feature, her voice, because she was so infatuated and so in love with the idea of love and being human, and Eric was just a humanized version of that. Now I know this is Disney, and I know this, we're talking about mermaids here, but really think about it and think about how this applies in your own life. So the next sign, I don't remember where I am, 5, 6, doesn't matter, is that you are living in the future, and that kind of falls into the whole putting your life living in limbo, like I said before, and it's living in the future rather than living in the present. It's fine to imagine a future with your partner. It makes sense even, because you want to make sure you're on the same page. But if you're only living in the future, then you're forgetting to build that foundation in the present. And I can't emphasize this enough, because I read something somewhere which really helped me understand this point, and let me know in the comments below if this is something that, I don't know, makes you understand it better. How do you know whether you are living in the present or the future with this person, and whether you're in love with the actual idea of love or love? What do you think when you're about to fall asleep? When you're thinking of that person that you love, how do you think of them? Are you thinking of the holiday house they have in some place in Europe? Are you thinking of the Christmases that you will spend? Or how will it be to have kids and all that? Or are you thinking of things like beautiful things that he or she has already done for you, or the amazing date you had? If you're focusing more on the future and your future plans and how things will seem like or be like, that's kind of a sign that you're more in love with the idea of him or her, because you are literally not reliving and thinking of things that have already happened. You are romanticizing, idealizing, fantasizing about this person. And I can't stress this enough. It is so important to put that grounding work, put those small memories that will create those bigger memories. So for example, my boyfriend and I, we have a common love for thrillers and horrors. We are those weird ass people that fall asleep. The more a person screams and is running from the killer, the faster we will fall asleep. We fell asleep in a movie theater once when everyone else was like, and then we were like, so that, for you, okay, for you guys that means nothing, but for me it's like that's part of a memory in the present that I may put into the future. The fact that we are so flexible and that we can go from, let's say, camping into the woods to like a fancy dinner. And if I only focus, and here I'm going in general, if I only focus on in the future of a relationship and not put in those small memories, not live in the present and build that up, then you're kind of building a dream but with no foundations. You're flying, but you don't have any wings. Does that make any sense? Another sign is that you are comparing your relationship with other couples. Now, check out my video about compare and despair and how I'm talking about comparing is not a bad thing, but you have to do it in a positive way, and that how we can get into this cycle. If you find yourself comparing to other relationships, especially social media relationships, I have nothing against couple Instagrams, but I do get infuriated by people that actually buy into the whole dream, because that creates unrealistic expectations. Those pictures you are seeing, they're literally the pages of that fairy tale. You're seeing their Christmases, their Valentine's Day, the present he got her, the present she got him, when they're hugging, they're snuggling in bed. But they're never going to post the fight. They're never going to post her puffy eyes crying or him being pissed because she's nagging about something, let's say. You're only going to see the highlights. So if you find yourself trying to force things into your relationship that are not there, you're probably more in love with what you're seeing out there than what's in front of you. Another sign that you are more in love with the idea rather than the person is asking yourself a simple question, which, even though it's a simple question, it takes a lot of self-reflection to answer. And that is, have you always been in love in life? Have you always been someone's girlfriend or boyfriend? Because then you kind of have to really look into the relationship in question. If you are constantly in love, maybe you're in loveaholic. Basically, you refuse to get past that post-honeymoon phase. And that is why maybe some of your relationships haven't worked out, because when you get to the whole nitty-gritty hard part of the relationship where you actually are in love and that infatuation has gone away, that's usually when your relationships crumble. So if you're a person that's always in love with the idea of being in love, and you've always been in love and always had been someone's girlfriend or boyfriend, that's a really strong sign that you may just be in love with that idea rather than the actual person. And lastly, another sign, and this is actually a very I think this is one of the biggest signs that one needs to address when they are in love, when they're in love, but also when they love someone, is that are you with that person because they make you feel better or because they make you a better person? Because if they make you feel better, they're just up for it. It's like their first aid kit. And it also means that once they're gone, you go through withdrawal because you need that person in order to validate you. Like what I said before, being someone's boyfriend or girlfriend, that title validates who you are. So you have to think that if that person goes away, if that fairy tale goes away, are you still you? Are you still the same person? Now, there's nothing wrong with your relationship with your partner making you feel better. It's in their job description almost sometimes. Not always. But if you're solely with them because they make you feel better, then it's like you're more in love with the way they love you instead of the way you love them. Because a relationship, love, is a partnership. So if they're holding you up rather than holding your hand, let's say, that's not a partnership. That's being dependent on someone. And again, that could lead to being in love with the idea of love. Now, if I like what I said, don't forget, smash that subscribe button. Push it. Give me a thumbs up. Ring that bell to see when I'm making new videos. And that's it, folks.